This is the MTPredictor weekly update for May 13th. I'll start with the S&P here again. This is the MTPredictor add-ons for NinjaTrader 7. Some people have asked me what platform we're using here. Yeah, this is one I'm using currently for this video anyway. And we were looking at this pattern last week. Here was that when the S&P approached this high, this resistance area where this kind of light blue area is here. This is where I said in the weekly market update that we should expect a correction. We got that correction, and I expected that it would be a fairly shallow one and that we'd go on to new highs. Well, the Dow, as we saw last week, went on to new highs, whereas the S&P here failed to make that new high. So what that sets up is, this could just be an ABC pattern. You see where this TS3 buy signal is. Well, I can put the analysis on here. Alright, and here's the support, your minimum wave C and your typical wave C support, which we've come into, and your targets here. Alright, but the problem is, the potential is that this was a major swing high here. And if that's so, then this is potentially wave 1 instead of A, and wave 2 and instead of B, and then we'd be heading, instead of wave C down, we could head wave 3 down, which I pointed out last week. So let's just add that. Let's go down wave 3 here. We'll start at the major swing high, down to the bottom of A, up to the top of B, and this projects our wave 3 targets, your typical maximum. And this one down here is your extended wave 3. Alright, so that's the pattern. Unfortunately, that when we didn't get that new high in the S&P like we did the Dow, it has that potential now, because this is a significant high here, and that high is basically the decision point. I don't have the data going back on this, but this is basically the decision point resistance area from the top of wave 1 back in 2008 into the crash of 2008 into the March lows of 2009. So this is what I would consider a significant high here, and that's why the danger is that we could see at least this typical wave 3 down would set up right around 1302, so right around 1300 we'll call it, and we're closed at 1350 in the E-mini on Friday. So something to watch. If this gives way, if wave C gives way, wave C will become wave 3 basically, because we do have the potential for that here. Again, the Dow is a different story because the Dow did make a new high as expected. But again, the S&P failed, so that's the story there. Watch for that. Next up, let's look at the euro. This is euro versus the dollar here. This sell signal back here obviously was a very nice trade. It was 8 times your initial risk there. And then the pattern that formed, it wasn't pretty, if I clear this back off, but we did have a, put the Elliott wave swings here, a 5-wave pattern down into our minimum wave 5 support area, and some major support under that. So we're looking for a potential bottom, and at a minimum a correction back to this wave 4 decision point area. Well, we got that. We got another little sell signal, but this euro US dollar is kind of going sideways here at this point, and this is going to need to make a decision. If they can take this swing high out where this TS4 is, then we should see more upside. In fact, we should see, if I take a decision point off of the top of this, here's the bottom of wave 1, the top of wave 1 here. The tendency is, if this area, this decision point off the wave 4 gets taken out to the upside, the tendency is that we'll see this area up here. And they'll basically erase this whole 5-wave pattern down. So it's the market, we call it a decision point area because the market needs to make a decision, and this is kind of what it's doing in this kind of choppy action back and forth. It needs to decide if this holds as resistance, then the trend prior, which was down, should continue. If they take this area out again, and basically if we get a close above this swing high and whatever the high there it gets taken out, chances are we'll see this area. So that's kind of in transition at the moment. It needs to make a decision. Let's take a peek at the dollar index here for a second. Okay, here's the dollar index on the weekly chart. And it's a little easier to see this because this was a major swing low in the dollar here, where this decision point was a nice high volume spike, basically telling us that professional buyers were coming in there. And I think I remember it was pretty much around the time I think Jim Rogers was saying that he was buying the dollar because everybody else was selling it, kind of thing. So the market did turn there. Here was the last swing low into this major low here. So we take a decision point off of this because this is the area, and I've said this for a while, but I would expect, you see this is just as the euro US dollar is kind of going sideways, so as the US dollar has been kind of going sideways after this major bottom. And but I think if the euro holds resistance and it goes lower, which that trend was, then we may get a move into this area in the dollar. We'll see that's still out there. That's around 84, 85, 84.90 area. So we'll watch that and see if that gets resolved one way or the other here. To oil, this is the weekly chart of oil. We had this little significant swing high here. If I put the Elliott waves on, you can see it was in a maximum wave 5 move up there, and so we expect a correction at least back to this wave 4 DP. Okay, we basically got that little double bottom there, and you know, if this area holds as support, then we should see you know, a continuation move, trend back to the upside. So we'll see. We're kind of in flux here. I think you've got this. Take a DP off of the top of this significant high, and take a DP off this low. And here's our basically setting up this big range between you know, 70, 75, and 120, 125 in oil. This is on the bigger time frame on the weekly chart, right? So we'll see. It's currently, there was a short, I think, on the daily chart. There was a sell signal there. It was against the trend, but the trend is now neutral. But you can see it's basically exceeded typical wave C. We may be headed down to the typical wave 3, just below 94, $94 there. We'll see how that plays out. I think you're sitting at some more support. They're just coming into this area here as well. So not too far below here, some good support in oil. So we'll see if it comes down and bounces off this area. So just keep an eye on that. And then let's bring in, if I've got my gold chart up here, we'll just use this one. Let's see, this is the daily chart of gold. Let's look at the weekly. So here was our last buy signal in gold that hit that 100% initial risk line. If you were in that, then you have to stop at break even there. We'll see if this, you know, basically, let me just put the, let's just put the 50 period moving average on there. And just so you can see, we've come down just below that. Alright, so we're below the 50 period. Let me make sure I got enough data on this. Just add some data, because that's gonna, yeah, let's put at least 3,000 on that. And so these buying opportunities below the 50 weekly 50 period moving average have been, you know, very good. This one actually, this major buy signal was during the crash of 2008 when the stock market crashed. And this came down all the way almost to the 200 period moving average. But these have all been good buying opportunities below the 50 period and above the 200 period that we've seen going back to basically after 9/11. And that's been the huge bull run in gold and of course silver as well. So, like I said, I know a lot of professionals that have been buying in here. Now we had some more selling come in last week at a neutral candle there. But your next support will be right around 1500, and then you can add your 200 period on, and that will be the big one, the weekly 200 period. We haven't come into that area since back basically in 2008, so we'll watch for that. And like I said, silver has that little different pattern. Is this my silver? Same basic trade setup as far as the weekly chart, but the thing that's a little different in silver, and again I don't put a lot of weight on it because it's silver, it's a smaller market, and it's more manipulated, which basically JP Morgan has admitted to. But here's that significant high, this wave 5 high, obviously was close to the $50 mark, which we hadn't been to since the 80s. And people think that's an all-time high in silver, but it really isn't, adjusted for inflation. You can go back to like the 1300s, and silver was over $1,000 an ounce. So we're not even near close to that. But just to kind of put a little more perspective to it, this is a recent high, going back to the 80s, that $50 level, and then again, which we did back here in April. But as far as the historical picture, silver is it's nowhere near its all-time highs, adjusted for inflation. So the danger here is that this is a significant high, meaning this could be wave 1, this could be wave 2, and we can project wave 3 down, similar to what we were seeing in the S&P. Let's just go down wave 3 here. And like we talked about before, that put here's your typical wave 3, that puts silver down around $15 an ounce. So, and if silver goes down there, that means gold is probably heading toward the its weekly 200 period. So that's, again, I don't put a lot of weight on this pattern in this market because it's much more volatile and it's small and it's easily pushed around. But it's there on the chart, and there's a potential for that. So we'll see. I think that's all we'll do this week. As far as economic data this week, Monday's a real light, really nothing on the schedule there. But you got the CPI and retail sales on Tuesday. Housing starts. I think you got FOMC minutes on Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, and then jobless claims, of course, on I think Philly Fed as well on Thursday. So got a little bit of economic data, and then of course all this news from Europe and this JP Morgan stuff, the trading losses and all this news will have some type of impact on the markets from day to day. So just be aware of that. All right, we'll leave it there, and we'll pick back up next week. Have a good trading week, everyone.